Hello, my name is Brendan Keeney. I'm the Artistic Director and CEO of DanceEast here in Ipswich, and I'm joined by the extraordinary choreographer Rosemary Lee, and she's going to tell us just a little bit about what we're about to watch.
Thanks, Brendan, and thanks for premiering the film. What you're going to see is a short film. It's a document of a much bigger event, but I think it's a dance film in its own right. And it's documenting something that happened in 2019 on Lowestoft Beach as part of the First Light Festival, which was a 24-hour free festival for the people of Lowestoft on the beach of Lowestoft to kind of welcome in the first light, as it's the most easterly point of the British Isles, on the summer solstice. And to celebrate that, and I was commissioned to make this work by DanceEast and First Light Festival, and I chose to make a piece that lasted 24 hours. So there are 24 soloists, ranging age from 8 to, let's say, 60 plus. And on the hour, every hour, they perform a solo. And this film captures that event.
So let's have a look.
line on the darker side of time. I've seen atoms threaded fine on the darker side of time. I've seen photons folded into a line on the darker side of time. On the sternum of a sphere, I have been returned from high to mere. On the sternum of a sphere, I have been reduced from there to here. On the sternum of a sphere, I fine-tune the fog until it's clear. On the sternum of a sphere, on the sternum of a sphere. Under the outstretched light, day splinters and foams into the night. Second splits when pulled too tight. Time lingers on the lid of my under the outstretched light. 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 Second splits when pulled too tight. Under the outstretched light. Time lingers on the lids of my eyes. under the outstretched line. Under the outstretched light. Under the outstretched light. Under the outstretched light.
So back again. Thank you, Rosemary. That's absolutely fantastic, amazing. Brought back incredible memories for me. It was a wonderful day, extraordinary day. What a great festival. What a great job they did, the festival organisers. So I think it'd be nice to talk a little bit about you first, and tell us a little bit about your background in dance and where you come from.
Okay, so now I'll let the cat out of the bag. I come from Lowestoft, and the building that you might see in the background of some of the shots, which has actually just been demolished for a new building, is the fisheries laboratory, where my grandfather and then my father spent their whole lives working as fisheries scientists. So that very beach where I was commissioned to make the work, ironically, is where I spent every summer, and then my children spent their summers there too. So there's a real personal connection. After dancing in little rooms and doing ballet in Great Yarmouth at the Phyllis Adams School of Dancing, I went to Laban and then to New York and then back to London, and here I am still choreographing 30 years later. But
So you're an East Anglian, basically.
I'm definitely an East Anglian.
And obviously that little bit of beach has particular resonance for all the reasons you've just said. Can you tell us a little bit about, how you came to make the work and what it's about?
Yeah, well, when Genevieve, who curated and masterminded this extraordinary festival for Lowestoft, approached me through DanceEast, I first of all thought, well, maybe I could make a larger work moving along the shore. And then I felt that actually that was quite difficult because of the tides and the way the beach has changed so much. Actually, it's a completely different beach to how it was when I was a child. So just in terms of the kind of landscape and how the tide changed, I felt that wasn't the answer, and that I would like to try to make something much more intimate, maybe because I had an intimate connection with it, I'm not sure, but my desire was to do something intimate and regular through the 24 hours. But of course, that then becomes very epic in terms of organization, in terms of how I teach the solo to 24 wonderful dancers. So even though I thought I was going for something a bit more small scale, of course, it's actually a very large project. I think I was really, at that time, where are we, 2019, I felt before COVID, but in the midst of still quite a tumultuous time, I think I felt that I wanted to really investigate allowing the dancer in that solo to really invest in it and invest in their emotions and in their connection to landscape and to the sea and to the air and in their connection to their own thoughts and their bodies, and yet let it sit in this big expansive site. So I was kind of playing with how do you meld together the expansiveness of that beautiful sky and sea and actually wonderful light on the day. It was so beautiful, with a sort of personal, very intimate solo. And how would I make that work? So that felt really new to me. I've never done that. I suppose my films like Boy, in a way, investigate a soloist and a child with their environment, but I'd never really done it live like that. I hadn't put a solo in a big space. So that felt the biggest challenge to me, I think. Shall I tell you a little bit about how we kind of made it together? Might that
I was just about to say it'd be good to know how it evolved and how.
Yeah. So So it sort of began with two dancers, Aya Kobayashi and Sophie Arstle, who I'd worked with on a previous project in Cornwall. And I went and met them in London and in Glasgow and worked through some of the ideas I had. And we came up with the size of the circle, and we went and visited the seashore in Glasgow during a hurricane and actually watched the sea moving with great ferocity. Which I think actually added to something. And then Sophie and I went to Lowestoft, and she danced in a storm as well. So we were dealing with quite extraordinary weather as well, and wind. And I think that really informed the piece. So I came up with a structure that they kept, that Sophie then, because she's in London, kept trying. And that structure is a kind of skeleton. And some things, as you can see, are learnt, like gestures that we all learn. And then other swathes of it are guided so that the dancer knows what they're exploring, but it's improvisatory. So you get that kind of, I hope you get this space where the dancer can really be themselves within the basket of the structure. And then at the same time as that was happening, well, as I was making the structure, I was talking to Isaac Lee Cronick, the singer and writer, composer, and he came up with the idea of the instrument. We went and bought it together, which was really beautiful experience. And we talked a lot about the lyrics, and then he went away and wrote those beautiful lyrics, which I just feel so grateful for, because I think they I talked to him about what I hoped was the foundation that made us all the same, and we're the same matter, in relation to the air and the wind and the sea. We come from the same place, we go to the same place in terms of our bodies, but our spirits and our wills and our personalities are totally different. So his lyrics for me really kind of hold it all together in a much bigger way than I could have imagined. So I'm hugely grateful for that, and give it a rhythmic structure so that they can learn the structure around the song, and the song gets ingrained in them. Does that make sense?
It makes absolute sense. Tell me, you've mentioned, you've alluded to the dancers, but
yes,
remind us about, the extraordinary thing they did, because
unbelievable.
Dancing, some of it, God knows what time at night, every hour.
No, absolutely unbelievable. So they're all dancers. Perhaps one is a slightly more tenuous link. He works a lot in the East Anglia but doesn't live there. But everybody else has this Eastern connection. They come from the region, Norfolk, Suffolk, and the edges of, I don't know quite where they are, but they're all over the place. And they were coming, and I would go to DanceEast and to Norwich, to the garage at Norwich, and in Lowestoft, where some of the young people came from, as hubs where I rehearsed with them. And we rehearsed in groups of 3, and they're handpicked. I mean, they're selected to do it because it's a very exposing thing to do, a solo like that. So I had to find people that really felt okay about being alone out there in that big space, the 9-year-olds being alone and holding a solo that long. They're extraordinary. And I just loved every single performance, and making the film with Ros. And Ros, of course, was there filming it for 24 hours. She, as she often says, she's the one that stayed up with Isaac for 24 hours, along with just a few others. Even I had a rest because I had to perform. She said there's just so much material because everybody is so in the work that they've embodied it so deeply, and it felt to me like it was their solo, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to try and find a structure that became theirs so that I can give it to them and they can dance themselves into it. If that makes sense.
No,
but the sand, I mean, the sand was so difficult. I was so nervous about it, and as it happens, it rained a lot before, which for us was brilliant, because when there had been times when I thought we can't do it, we just can't, because your energy is so sucked, you can't jump, you slip into the sand. So we devised methods to keep it nice and firm, but it really was exhausting. So that they're dancing themselves out by the end. It's a real feat of endurance.
And the dancers got older, so some of the older dancers were, right very late or very early in the morning as well, weren't they? Really, really.
Absolutely. I mean, and I think the beautiful light for Nikki at dawn and Anna coming into it, that gorgeous light that's coming, I think that was kind of a very precious moment, actually. And it makes me laugh because, and I'm sure the dancers would laugh with me, you know, in that little spell, they tended to be middle-aged women. And in society, as we go into our middle age as women, we often feel a bit invisible. And it was just sort of a strange, and we laughed at the irony of it. But actually, they were dancing out to the stars and the little flashing lights of the fishing. And we had an audience for every single one, which I thought was amazing. There were a couple of very loyal watchers who just bedded down between in a sleeping bag and stayed there. They slept on the edge of the circle and woke up for each soloist. That was fantastic.
So an incredibly special moment for those people that were there. It's fantastic that, you know, it's been sort of embodied in this lovely film. Is there any future for it, or because, you know, it obviously was made for that day?
Yeah.
Have you got any? There is any legacy other than this film? Or is this...
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm delighted at what Roswitha has managed to do in this editing process. I was with her making it together, but it's her wonderful filming and her eye and together we found this concept of managing to capture a 24-hour piece in a 12-minute film or whatever it is. So I'm really hoping that we might be able to share this film a little bit wider, because I'm really proud of it. I think it's a beautiful little film, and I thought I was just making a document, but somehow it's become something else. But equally, my producer, Nikki Childs at Arts Admin, actually, it was her suggestion, though she would never admit it, but it was, she said, I wonder what this would be like as a relay, sort of, so that it's just ongoing in an indoor space. And this really caught my imagination. So a year later, well, actually, during the time I was making CIRCADIAN, I got offered a commission in Malta with Spin Malta National Dance Company. And they have, I think it's 11 lovely young dancers that work with them. And Paolo Mangiola, the artistic director, wanted me to make something that involved more community and different kinds of ages. And I couldn't find a site in Malta that was working for me. And I think because I was right in the middle of CIRCADIAN, it was just so in my head that I suddenly said this thought that Nikki had, what if, would you like me to try to make this work I'm working on now in a different format? And he leapt at the chance. So in 2020, January, just before COVID, I'm so grateful that I had the start of the year. I spent a month in Malta making Threaded Fine, which is a new title, but it's CIRCADIAN reworked. And instead of 24 hours, it was 24 dancers, although we lost one because of an injury. So 23 dancers danced one after the other, and there was a little transition between it that he composed new music for. Isaac performed for 5 hours, but had some recorded that he'd to rest his voice in between. And I thought maybe that could be a bit boring, far from it. So people got fascinated by the repetition and by the individuality, which I think happened to some of the audience members in Lowestoft, like, who's going to come next? You know, at 1 a.m., who's that going to be? And how will they dance it? Well, it was like that, but for 5 hours. And I'm now hoping that I can take either CIRCADIAN or Threaded Fine to other places, possibly Scotland, we're talking to at the moment. And yeah, because it's a lovely way of giving dancers the opportunity to perform solo. You don't get those opportunities much to perform as a soloist. It's a great challenge for you as a dancer, and also to work within an ensemble. Even though you don't dance together, you feel like you're a group doing this, stepping into the footsteps of the dancer before you, leaving the traces for the dancer after you. It's quite a lovely experience. I'm not sure I'll dance it again. I'm not sure I can pull it off anymore, but I enjoy teaching it. I learn something with every dancer.
Fantastic. Before I sign off, because I think it's time we probably did. Was there any, you talked about Ros, the filmmaker, Ros Chesher, the filmmaker, and you talked about Isaac, the composer. You talked about lovely dancers. Was there any other collaborators in there that we should get a mention?
Thank you. Yes, I thought Flora Moyes, who did the costumes, did the most fantastic job, and luckily I was able to work with her in Malta as well. Just the way, I don't know if you noticed in the film, but how it goes from really dark, like midnight blue in the children, and then she slips maybe a lighter blue in there, and then it goes more through the teenage into a royal blue, and then by midnight she's into these soft kind of grey blues, and by dawn the color of the dancers there is the color of the sky. It's as if, I don't know how she knew that, but the way the colors go from dark blue to white through the ages, I think is really beautiful. And she did the same with the musician. He kind of kept changing as he got cold through the night. And also there were people helping rake. Charlie Cronick and Des Reynolds were helping rake and try and keep this sand moist for us and things like that. But the creative team, I hope I've got everyone, because it was a real group effort. And Nikki was there all night giving people drinks, and we had a lovely system, because it's actually a really difficult thing to how can I put it, stage manage, because it's such a difficult thing to go down there on your own, especially in the night, walk down from the dressing room, which was the Seagull Theatre in Lowestoft, which was fantastic to work with them, to walk down and then have to face that solo alone. I felt they needed a buddy. So we had a whole buddy system where one of the dancers before would watch. Anyway, we had a great system, I won't go into it, where people were watching each other so they could support each other and accompany each other, so no one felt too scared as they did that walk to the edge of the rope.
So I am going to sign us off there, because that's a lovely place to finish. Yeah. I want to thank you. It's a great privilege for us to be a very small part of that thing, and thank the lovely dancers and great creative team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, thanks to First Light for making it all happen. What a great day! What a great day! Can't wait for the next one.
No, Norm, absolutely. I'm going to be there volunteering. I can't wait either. Yeah.
So thank you very much. If you want to tweet about us, people, please do. If you want to tweet about what you've just seen, I think somebody from DanceEast will be trying to tweet back. Not me, I hasten to add, I don't tweet. But thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Brendan, very much.